What's up, everyone? This is the Tesla Beat 113, and we are on we're just days before potentially the biggest quarter ever that Tesla has had. I know, shout out to Joe Tagmeyer. I mean, he's been doing some drones, and man, they are cranking these cars out. And as we have learned, right, all you need to do now is just as long as you're not leasing, you just need to have an order in before 9:30, and you can fulfill it. But with that said, we're going to get into all of that. How's it going, everyone?
Doing so good. Oh man. Well, we'll cover all
Mhm.
of it, but this has been a big week. I know I say that every week, but this week it's true.
Mhm.
Every week. Yeah, and next week's going to be interesting too. Once they post those results, actually, they might post them the morning of this show. We'll have to see, or they might do it just. We'll see next Thursday, Friday, but should be a good week. But with that said, let's jump into it. Shout out to Joe for always using Grok, the Tesla Beat, and actually the stock has been going up. Um, it's been a kind of flat week over week, but you can see that on the far right, the spike. I think it hit like close to like north of 440 on some of this, close to 450. So it's cooled off a little bit, but again, up 12% year to date. Love to see this, especially again, for the majority of this year, especially the big cool off that happened, after the insane run up. We were transitioning into new administration, there was an insane run up, but good to see it now positive. All right, so really been interesting, right? Tesla's actually been running ads, and they've done this several times on various initiatives. But I think it's whether it's like Instagram or Facebook, I've been seeing a lot of these ads just popping up in my stories because of the voting is happening now. So, if you own any Tesla shares, make sure you get out there and vote. Cast your vote. It's your right. It's a very important time, right? It's partially, at least the two big things that come to my mind is Elon's compensation package and obviously the investment in XAI. But what have you guys seen, and what do you think about them running ads on this voting time?
Well, I was at first critical of it. I said that, well, wait a minute, they can tell us to vote for Elon's pay package, but they can't tell us that. FSD works great, and your auto dimming high beams actually work like a charm. But then it was pointed out to me that, look, in the past, the criticism was that not enough people knew about the shareholder vote to participate, to actually have good information. That's why we have to drag the whole thing endlessly through court. If we can raise enough awareness, it doesn't tell people how to vote. It just tells them to vote. Please vote your shares. It doesn't say give us what we want. It says give us what you think is the best future for the company. And to the people saying these milestones are too easy, they're priced in. They're not. Go look at the price targets on Wall Street. The highest one out there from the big analysts is, I think, 580 a share. If that's the value of Tesla, Elon gets paid nothing from this comp plan. That's it, guys. Vote for it. Stick it to him. Haha. He'll get nothing if you vote yes. So I'm in favor of the advertising. Let's get as many people to participate as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important. Elon at the end of the day is such a critical for him. He actually, I think he commented, I forgot to who, but it might have been Gregor Truck, but it was just like, the compensation isn't what matters. It's just being able to have the majority vote, especially when he's investing so much of his time and knowledge and really where the future is headed. Like he wants to be able to make critical decisions. So, and again, for him to be able to even hit those milestones, this is not crazy 2018 days where it was more insane during those times, but still very important. Okay, so shout out to Jason from All In Podcast. He said, my last three FSD rides were absolutely perfect. Hardware 4 plus 13, version 13. Feels like they're very close, but safety first is the most important. No shame in safety drivers game. The safety driver game has to be perfect. So everyone chill and let them cook. Elon, of course, gives us even more FOMO by responding. Version 14 goes into early wide release next week, then 14.1, and about 2 weeks later, 14.2. The car will feel almost like it is sentient being by 14.2. I don't know if I pronounced that wrong, but either way, um, it is, like I said, thankfully, I think obviously they're always a little bit late, but always deliver. I think the original target month was September, so it could technically drop like the last day. But if it doesn't, it's coming. And for me, what gets me most excited about this is that I know that they have robo taxis in Austin and now the Bay Area. So they have a software that can literally drive completely without pretty much little to no human intervention. I mean, that's literally what you're seeing. That's literally what you're seeing in these two areas. And so it's just for me, it's like these updates are only going to get, in my opinion, significantly better. 13.2.9 is huge. But what were your guys' thoughts on V14 and some of the things Elon was saying?
I think one of the things about his phrasing here that we should highlight is when he says early wide release next week, it sounds like, hey, everyone is going to get this thing. No, early wide release means Omar's going to get it, Chuck's going to get it, a few people are going to get it. Like it's the beginning of rolling it out to customers beyond the internal fleet. But that probably doesn't mean that most of us are going to get it. Like I don't expect to get 14 next week, certainly. But eventually, yeah, like it'll expand and they'll do the typical rollout. And I'm hoping that this goes a lot more like the rollout of version 13 than the rollout of version 12, which was very, very slow. But that said, we also know, or at least we can have high confidence based on JD from AI Driver, his knowledge of the system and his experience, that at least as of several weeks ago, the vast majority of all of the software that is operating the robotaxis was still version 13 based. It has not been migrated over to this version 14 stuff. Now, maybe that has changed over the last few weeks. Maybe they are, and I would expect they probably are, at least in a portion of that fleet, doing some side-by-side testing between 13 and 14 and getting it rolled out. But yeah, we should expect a significant improvement in the quality of FSD here over the remainder of this year. And I think they're doing a very similar type of architectural update to FSD that XAI has been doing over with Grok. That, from Grok 3 to Grok 4, they had basically the same amount of pre-training compute that was going into it, which is just like telling it how to drive based on the examples that it had, but then limiting the amount of RL compute. There was like a little bit in Grok 3 of RL compute. There's a chart that, if you want to go look for it, that they displayed in their XAI Grok 4 release presentation. And so then for Grok 4, what they did is they held that same amount of pre-training compute, and instead of having just this like little bitty bit of RL compute, which is kind of superpowering it, training it after it's already been trained, then they 10x that. And so now it's like equal parts pre-training and reinforcement learning. And I think that reinforcement learning expansion is what they are doing in version 14 versus version 13, that they're trying to validate this in a lot more ways, doing simulated driving with either emulated AI4 computers or real AI4 computers. We know that there's at least some AI4 computers that are in Cortex. And this is part of how they're trying to validate, this version is better than that version. But even in that validation, they're actually using that and putting it back into a loop with the training. And this is going to be one of the main unlocks that actually allows version 14 not to just be as good as humans, but significantly better than humans. And then really continuing to scale this method of training is, over time, the thing that gets us to that 10x, 100x better than human safety.
So I thought it was more inference than RL. is it more RL then?
Inference. So RL is and inference are combined together. Like when you're doing reinforcement learning, you're putting the agent, the AI driver, into a simulated situation, and then you're letting the inference say, okay, what would I do here? And you're letting it do that several times. So maybe you say, hey, like, we've got dogs in the back of trucks that are causing us problems, and we want to understand, what are the few, situations where a dog actually jumps out of the back of a truck, and we need to be prepared for that versus all the other times that you just see a dog in the back of a truck. And maybe you've only got 2 or 3 or 4 examples of that in your entire real world data training set. Well, you can take that and then you can multiply that situation and say, okay, let's change it just a little bit here. Like, let's do the same situation but in different weather, or let's do the same situation and we'll say that the the truck turns. And so you can create variations of those situations to expand the representation of that in your overall training set. And then you can say, okay, here, let's take that situation and simulate it. And now inference computer, run through that situation 100 times and do something slightly different each time. And now, so that's the inference. So that is RL, and that is the use of inference to do reinforcement learning. Is you do all those different situations, and then you score, which times did the inference computer pick the very best possible response to that. And then you're going to say, okay, hey, when you do that, we're going to give you like 100 gold stars. And, when you run over the dog or hit the truck, then you get negative 1,000 gold stars. So that's kind of a quick and dirty explanation of what reinforcement learning is and how inference compute is part of the reinforcement learning process. And that's what they're doing a lot more of right now in their training for version 14.
Nice.
Crazy.
It's freaking wild.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is just that, AI, as Elon would say, is moving at a it's a supersonic tsunami. And like I said, I think the fact that we know that there is 2 areas right now, whether it's the Bay Area or whether it's Austin, that can, pretty much you can go in and have a Tesla drive you pretty much anywhere in the geofence without any human intervention. And again, this is why they're testing. And again, Jason was even mentioning from the All In podcast is like, we need safety drivers, safety first. Let's get all the testing. Let's get into all the results. It's kind of like the early days of FSD beta and supervised, where they had all of these auto labelers, right, on the autopilot team, and then eventually they did move on from them. But in the same thing with this, it's important for them to get as much data, to get as much of these, to build the network. I mean, who knows how many robotaxis or Tesla Model Ys they have in the Bay Area. I knew in early August it was 50. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're up to 100 by now, or 70, 80, whatever it is here. But everything is just changing right before our eyes. And Tesla's going to be the one leading that. They're going to be on the bleeding edge of that. All right, so Joe, I'll pass this one to you.
Yeah, so this is pretty crazy to think about. So yeah, I titled this "You Mad Bro" because people get in their feelings. But Sawyer Merritt posted this, and I thought it was very poignant for what we're the times that we're in. Number 1 best-selling car in the world, an EV. Fastest production car in the world, 308 miles per hour. It's freaking crazy. It's an EV. Quickest 0 to 60 production car in the world, an EV. Cheapest car to maintain in the world, an EV. Most efficient in the world is an EV. Most environmentally friendly car in the world, an EV. Safest car in the world, an EV. Number 1 most American made car, an EV. Pretty wild, because like he states here, many years ago, ICE vehicles held like so many of these titles, and especially the fastest production car. Like that was one that people be like, oh, it's quick, but it's not fast. There's a difference. And so like now you see like the coin has flipped. But I used to say this all the time, that if it was a race, then ICE vehicles were already at their maximum. and EVs were just starting. You know what I mean? Like we haven't even hit the pinnacle of EVs yet. And so that's like something that I think people tend to forget about, that it's still so early on in the stages of what we're doing, what we're developing, and how things are, the technology. And I mean you're not even in the freaking in the hard the no, what is it called, the batteries without any electrolytes in them.
Dry.
Yeah,
Oh,
the dry
solid state.
solid state. Yeah, we're not even there yet. Like once you hit solid state, like I mean, this is going to become crazy bananas.
Well, when you look at it, this isn't like they managed to build one of each that can do something amazing. Gas cars, like Joe just said, have plateaued. You know what? If you could bring something to General Motors tomorrow that will get them 0.5% more efficiency, they would reward you handsomely. Uh, if you bring 0.5% to EVs, they're like, okay, great. Now get back to work because we got another 0.5% we need by lunch. So there's if you look at the average EV, go drive a Chevy Bolt. It's punchy, it's quick, it's fun, and it's the least impressive car on the market. Safety, it's just the design. The center of gravity is going to be low. The crumple zone is going to be huge. It's just the average EV is always going to be safer than the average gas car. It's just how it works. So all of these things add up. The fuel costs. Electricity is just plain cheaper than gasoline. So this is a winning equation on all fronts.
100%. So are potential future cyber SUVs. So Franz, the chief designer of Tesla, was on a Hot Pursuit podcast, and he mentioned though when he was just talking about the cyber SUV or smaller Cybertruck. And I think even at the X takeover, Lars had mentioned, a different, vehicle outside of like the Cybertruck. Like, would they consider a different variation, a smaller truck? But either way, Franz said those are definitely things we've considered. Wait and see. Wait and see is probably the best way I can answer that. We're working on so many innovative and fun things. The one thing I will say is that, and I think, we were talking amongst the four of us about how potentially like all of the Doge efforts and all of the stuff that was happening earlier this year really potentially pushed off a lot of these big announcements. Because, they wouldn't be launching these brand new products as, the company's literally being attacked and owners are being attacked. But who knows? We'll see when things are released. If anything comes this quarter, we know that there's the big shareholder meeting. Tesla has, historically had some big, product launches in the November timeframe on top of that. So who knows? Maybe we're in Austin if we get invited to the shareholder meeting. We're in Austin for the shareholder meeting, and then maybe there at the end of the month for some other stuff. But who knows what Tesla's going to do? They're definitely making more cars. One thing I've been seeing on the road, and I know Joe, you've been seeing them too. And it's the cheaper version of the Model Y. Like it's been, and why I believe it's that case is because the way that it's covered up is not just like, when I've seen the Model S and some of these other ones, they typically will leave open certain parts and then cover up the rest. This is like they've only left open the lights, which are completely different than the Model Y today. So obviously I haven't measured it because it hasn't been parked. I think I've seen some people that have seen it like just sitting parked, but I've been seeing them all over the place, kind of like the Model Y back when we were seeing it. It was just, when you started to see the new variations of it. They're just, I'm like not even going in Palo Alto and I'm seeing them is the thing. So I think you're seeing them in Fremont. I'm seeing in Cupertino area. So we will see. But what do you guys have any thoughts on his recent comments?
Yes, of course, people get very excited. They really want something new. They want the cyber SUV. There's hints. There's so many hints. There's a model on the shelf. Guys, there's hundreds of models on that shelf. Maybe thousands in the design studio. Well, he said they considered it. Yeah, considered. We already know they're not going to do another stainless vehicle. We all want the SUV. but there are a lot of companies that already make a big proper third row SUV. They make Kia makes one, Rivian makes one, GM Cadillac make one, but what they don't make is money. It's very hard to make a profitable third row SUV, and Tesla demands margin. So a lot of tea leaf reading, not as much actual analysis. We all have our hopes and dreams. I don't mean to dash them, but boo, I say, boo, stop with the rumors. It's not happening yet. Maybe soon, but it's not on the roadmap.
Yeah, I think we also need to just remember in here the fact that the debate that Lars and Franz and Elon were having that was depicted in the Walter Isaacson biography about, steering wheel or no steering wheel, pedals or no pedals, like, what are we doing here? I think that debate has lived on and raged, and we have kind of seen the lack of announcements because I think this debate has continued to thrive inside of Tesla. And there was a comment that Elon made here recently about the unboxed process. He was replying to someone, and he was just reiterating that, hey, once we start manufacturing cars with this unboxed process, we want to get to 10-second cycle times, that cars are coming out of the factory every 10 seconds. And like right now, to the best of my knowledge, China is running at roughly 30 seconds. So that's like a 3 times improvement over Giga Shanghai, which is like significantly better than Austin or Berlin. And anyways, I say that to say he's deep in the weeds of trying to push this expansion into the unboxed process. And so we're doing 2 things at once. We're changing the way that we make the car, and we're changing whether or not the car drives you or you drive the car, and trying to coordinate these 2 complex shifts at the very same time is why we haven't, like, they've thought about 100 different possible things that they could do. And what they actually will do is going to be constrained with how do you navigate both of those complex shifts at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's gonna. Well, I mean, we're seeing it in real time, just like Brian says. You're in a situation where people, even though like FSD 13 is amazing, I use it every day. I drove to Chicago and back, like using FSD 13, and still there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have never experienced it, have no idea what's happening, don't even know what's going on. And so like Elon sees things so far in the future, but to him it's like right there. I mean, his time is different than our time is relative. But the truth of the matter is, like, we're probably a lot further off than we think, and definitely further off than Elon thinks, because he thinks, oh man, everybody wants this. They don't even know it exists, bro. Sorry to tell you that. They have no idea. Like, and you see this with all kinds of when it comes to tech adoptions, right? Like, I worked at Radio Shack, RIP Radio Shack, but I worked at Radio Shack at a time when we were transitioning not only to HD TVs and flat screen TVs, but also iPhones and things like that. And people did not want it. They were not interested at all. And you see that with vehicles, and vehicles are the biggest purchases for a lot of families, even used ones. Like, this is like a lot of money people are spending. So yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a ways, but it's still very interesting to see. And Tesla doesn't release anything like, I mean, we know, especially like me and John, we've submitted videos to Tesla and they look at everything with a fine tooth comb. So they put that in there on purpose. So they knew what they were doing, and they did it to spark conversation and things like that. And so for sure something's coming. The timeline of it is going to be very interesting because, like Hans and Brian both say, like, just a crazy inflection point of driving versus not even needing to drive anymore, and cars being made and robots are coming. Like, there's just a lot happening right now, man. The next few years are going to be crazy.
100%, man. All right. So with that said, some of us, I know I got my first Tesla ever in 2017. I know some of y'all also too maybe experienced or owned the Model 3 early on. But it was just crazy to think of like, it's crazy to think that 2017 was 8 years ago, first of all. I mean, everything is longer because of COVID, but just how much the car has gotten better. And some of these actually, I would say, like, even, we helped contribute to like asking for some of these things that have come out, especially during the big days of like Tesla specifically getting broken into with that back latch on the back row, like Sentry mode. So these are some of the things that if you bought a Model 3 in 2017, you now have access to that did not exist in the car when it was built. Sentry mode, dash cam viewer, automatic blind spot camera, dog mode, trip planner, battery conditioning for faster supercharging, uh, better entertainment, YouTube, Netflix, obviously music options. The music goes on. And I think, Brian, you mentioned you had a couple on your list that you could add, but it's just, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that normally when you buy a car, you find out a few minutes later that, oh, the next year it's going to be better. They're going to add this, and you never ever get that. Your car doesn't get better after you buy it unless you put in some ostrich leather seat covers. But but my cars just keep getting better. They recently updated the airbag deployment to integrate data from the cameras. When I bought the car, it didn't have cross traffic alert when you're backing up, and it's got cross traffic braking, where if you're pulling out and it thinks you're going to hit something, it'll slam on the brakes. Normally, that's something you'd have to buy a whole new car just to get. It didn't have chill mode. It didn't have smart summon, camp mode, fart mode. I mean, you're saving money right there. Most people would buy a whole new car just to get fart mode. It didn't have the light show. It didn't have the auto supercharger rerouting where it says, boy, that one's going to be full when you get there. Let's move you to a different one. Yeah, cabin overheat protection. The phone integration was nothing compared to what it is today. It didn't have the energy app so you could gamify your drive for maximum efficiency. It didn't have the weather map with the air quality index. It certainly didn't have the the radar overlay showing you where the rain is actually falling. It didn't have the automatic dimming and folding mirrors. The car just keeps getting better whether you like it or not, and you like it. Everyone does. And this is something that nobody else is giving you, certainly not for free. It used to be if you wanted to update your GPS once a year, you had to purchase a DVD and manually install it, which no one did because the cost was eye-watering. And the map is just there. It just works.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. So, we've been seeing this all year. We all know that the EV market in general, or legacy auto has really been slowing down their build outs and pretty much shutting off these programs. We got, I remember Joe too, even like, we got early indications, like even last year with Ford, when we hung out with them out in Monterey. You could just see that that was kind of like the start of the cool off. But here you have Honda canceling the Acura CDX EV, and then also to Porsche's EV plans collapse, flagship SUV to launch with gas instead, which is just crazy. But like I said, I think this goes back to, it really, and I still believe that the future is electric when it comes to just car ownership. I just don't think that these companies have made a compelling enough car. There's cars like the Lucid, for example, that are just like when you get into it, it's a great car, but is it insanely different than some of the other really high-end cars? But really, again, what sets Tesla apart is the fact of the software, the hardware, constantly getting upgrades, the full self-driving, the safety. Again, the list goes on for Tesla of like how much more compelling. I mean, we saw it. What is it back here? Like this all used to be ICE vehicles. And so Tesla on every category has constantly innovated. And so unfortunately, it sucks to see that, these other companies not able to make a compelling enough product, but that's ultimately what it comes down to me. I think the more people I've seen that have bought a Tesla, they don't want to go back to buying gas again. It just is not a thing. I mean, sure, there's going to be those edge cases, but once you go back into kind of like the electric vehicle lifestyle of like no gas, rarely any maintenance, you rarely see people kind of going back, and then also to experiencing full self-driving. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, well, this happens in cycles. I mean, we see it all the time with companies that are like, "Man, we're going to do so much, and just wait until we do this, this, and that," and then it's like, we were, man, we were so going to do it, but now, but you know why we can't, right? You get why we can't, and it's just an excuse. Like the EVs are selling, but I think you hit the nail on the head. They're just compelling vehicles versus non-compelling vehicles, because it's Tesla's not even number one in all of those categories of like what we showed before. They're not even like the best range making EV, but the fact is that they just keep producing regardless, because they have a freaking a CEO that doesn't care what you think. He's going to do what he wants to do. And I think there needs to be just more people like that to just realize, like, you know what, just forge ahead. It's inevitability. And some of these companies just get so scared of the inevitable. I mean, we had I don't know, the fortune of being able to sit and talk with Jim Farley, and he was just like, you could tell, like, when speaking to him about EVs and how the future of it, he sees it, he knows it's happening. His whole problem is convincing everybody else that this is the right path to go down. And you see a lot of these companies. I mean, you saw what happened with the old guy for Volkswagen, and I mean, these are people with great ideas. They just couldn't last through the cycle. And there's just going to become that time when you're in downtime before it takes off, and you just got to see it through that down period. I mean, we saw it before the Model 3 hit, like Elon sleeping on the factory floor, and the company could have like went bankrupt, but here we are. They just forged through the path, and you got to keep making the EVs. They got to be compelling. They got to be worth it for people to buy. You can't make these compliance vehicles and think that people are just going to want it because of the brand. And it just doesn't happen that way. You gotta entice the pot, man.
Well, and that's the thing, is you've got these companies are trying to tell us we can make the best car. We do make the best car. These are, try our electric car. You're going to love it. Also, we're not going to keep pushing forward on them because we got the smallest amount of pushback ever. And that's enough for us to slow our plans completely and go back to the dyno burners. It's ridiculous. Herbert Diess is the name you were looking for. He was all in on EVs. He said that is the future. And the Porsche family, which controls Volkswagen to a large degree, said, no. No, you're out. You're gone. We're going to put in someone who doesn't want to push into the future. Future's happening. The EU has said repeatedly 2035 is happening. The only reason it wouldn't happen is if you guys can't make cars, but you've already proven that you can. And if you can't, China can, the US can, or could. We'll see, because a lot of the US plants are also being scaled back. You've got the best product in the world. Just build it. And I guess one problem is that they spent 20 years telling their buyers electric is garbage, don't buy one, and their buyers believed them, and it puts them in a real pickle.
Well, and I think one of the things to remember here is just how singular Elon is on pushing the value per dollar of what it is that you get. And so, yes, like maybe there are some other research and development, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands, like the Lucid, objectively, their cars outperform the Model S in many, many ways. Oh, but yeah, you got to spend like 2 or 3 or more times the price to get it. And like, is that 10-20% better improvement in a few performance specs and then objectively worse software worth 2 to 3 times more? And the answer is no. And so like Elon is the best at optimizing, this entire different list of things that he's providing to you, because it's not just the acceleration, like it is also the software experience, and it is definitely also full self-driving, and other people are not keeping up on those fronts. And that's one of the things that's really hard for legacy auto, and Jim Farley has talked about this, is like, yeah, you can make an EV, but making an EV that competes with Tesla isn't just about swapping out your ICE engine for a battery and some electric motors. It's about making the world's best vehicle software. And I'm sorry, Volkswagen couldn't do it. That's one, like, Herbert Diess might have had a leg to stand on to push back against the Porsche family if he hadn't completely turned their software initiative, which was called Cariad, into a total Charlie Foxtrot that failed massively. And that is, the thing that Ford is still struggling with. Like, their software just, it's not good. GM's is awful. And everyone else in this space, like, okay, they can make something that kind of looks like it, but is it getting better as fast? Are they really able to make your car feel like your cell phone? Or does getting behind the steering wheel actually feel like you just got transported back in time by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, because all of the controls and user interfaces that you're interacting with in your car were literally designed 10 years ago?
In China, the software is generally very good. All of the brands that you've heard of have really good, like Tesla level software. It works. It's not laggy. When you get down into some of the lesser known names, the software immediately turns to garbage and starts to remind you of legacy auto, where the car only has 5 menus and 10 buttons, and you still can't find what you're looking for. And then after an hour of driving in the pouring rain, a voice comes on in English for some reason with a thick accent and tells you that it's detected rain and it's going to activate rain mode. That's terrible, but they're definitely working on it, and they'll get there. Hello, Mr. Sir, your windows have been rolled up for you automatically because of rain. Buddy, it's been raining for an hour. I don't know what to tell you. But it reminds me of these it reminded me of legacy software. It is getting better. Rivian is awfully good, but it's just not on the same level as Tesla. Once they get it figured out, and I'm not convinced they will, they'll be in a better position to compete. But the software advantage, the supercharger network advantage, the over-the-air update advantage, it's really hard to find a second place.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. And people forget, man, China's coming. Like, they are coming, and not all the vehicles are trash. They make some pretty good vehicles. So I just think like Tesla will weather that storm, but legacy auto is really, really gonna be in some trouble, because if they're struggling now with, like, as Brian said, just a slight bit of pushback, and they're folding already, then it's gonna be detrimental when China starts to invade with all their vehicles. Like, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see China doing it in some of these countries anyway. I mean, obviously we won't allow their vehicles here right now. That's what's happening. But yeah, I think when I think back of like the past 8 or 9 years that I personally have been following Tesla, I really start to think about, when Tesla, like what was crazy about Elon and the stuff he did is that he thought, okay, if I'm going to make something vastly different, how do I make the experience completely transition free or as much as hassle free as possible? Well, first off, make your house the gas station. Let me put supercharger. I mean, he just thought and casted the whole vision. And what you had with these other companies, when they started to see that Tesla was doing it, one, they pushed off for way too long. They should have at least looked at the research. Okay, does it make sense to do an EV fleet? Does it make sense to launch maybe a couple vehicles or go all in or whatever? They kept pushing it off. And then when they launched their cars, they were half baked. The software wasn't great. They didn't have a supercharger network for the longest time. It was Electrify America, which was literally stood up because of the Dieselgate from VW. So shout out to them. And again, when you have a Dieselgate happening, they're not going to throw up the best chargers. They're just doing it to meet status quo. They don't care about that. So like you have these double whammies, and now we're at this point, it's 2025, and there's, even if you take like a company like Lucid and Rivian who are fresh up like from the ground, they started everything. Like in my opinion, companies like Apple, companies like GM and Ford, they should be buying them and potentially, reusing a lot of their stuff and building and growing that, right? You see that hints of that in Ford and stuff, but it really just does not, in my opinion, make any sense for them to well, I just don't see them being able to compete long term, at least the American US companies. And as Joe said, it's like, China's coming, China's already here, their vehicles are pretty good already. They're making them cheap, the software is good, and it's gonna work for most people. Oh, were you gonna say something, Hans?
I was disagreeing. I guess the one thing that I could add is, China doesn't necessarily have to sell cars here to completely destroy GM. That GM used to make the majority of its profits in China, and those are all gone already. And GM is already a shell of its former self because of competition from China, inside of China. And that pressure is going to only mount on them around the rest of the world as China continues to grow their auto exports. And so, even if the United States tries to be protectionist and say, GM, you're never going to have to compete with Geely or Xiaopeng or Neo here in the United States, that doesn't save GM. GM's totally toast.
Yeah, that is facts. All right, Joe, were you gonna say something?
No. I was just
Okay.
everybody
Well,
likes
you
toast.
you can take this slide too.
Sweet. EV chargers in abundance. So this is pretty crazy. In So there are officially over 200,000 EV charge ports available, uh, public statewide in California, according to a California commission. But this is 68% more EV charging ports than there are number of gasoline nozzles in the state, which is pretty crazy. And Brian had a pretty good take on this in a private chat. He was like, "Yeah, that's not even counting the home chargers." Just like when you think about it, that's a staggering number. But anyway, yeah, no, EV chargers are happening. It's pretty cool. Brian, you want to say something?
Well, just that. If you've got more nozzles, more electricity hoses that are publicly available than gas hoses, that's a pretty good deal. Before you even factor in the idea that you can juice up at home, which is what all of us do every day, because why wouldn't we? If I had a little gasoline tap that filled my car at home for a tenth of the price, I'd be insane not to use it. Um, and yeah, this just goes to show, and California isn't anywhere close to 50% adoption, and yet it's moving quicker. We can do this. We already have electricity everywhere. Let's just get it in and going. And when you look at companies like Electric Era in Seattle, they've got batteries that go with all of their chargers, so they don't need to wait for a huge transformer to be installed. Whatever juice is available, they can match a battery to it so that they can pull enough juice and still fast charge you and get you out the door. It's happening. It's real.
Yeah, and with that, some of the I kind of this was a little bit at the end, but a sign of the times of changing. And in a lot of ways, when I think of, I'm not saying when it comes to EV movement, right? California is kind of like the Norway of Europe. In some ways, we're still very far off, obviously. But like what I meant was like what Joe was saying is this was applicable in it was a couple slides back, but it was applicable in California and here in Arizona. Again, just more signs of changing. It's EV charging. Arizona mills pull off, and so it's cool to see that this is happening and people are starting to see more of like this become a normal part of life is just seeing EV chargers. It's now going up on exit signs.
Well, I don't remember where in California. It's on I-5. It's where around where you would cut off to go to San Francisco. There's an exit that has its own giant billboard advertising everything that's at this exit. It makes it sound like it's one big, travel center, but it's just the whole exit. And Tesla Supercharger is right at the top of the billboard, up there. Do you know where that is, Joe?
I kind of do. I'll have to find it. Yeah. But I know what you're talking about, though.
Get us a picture.
Yes.
We'll have to do that on. Joe's going to drive there right after this to do it. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So Tesla is asking the Trump administration to not repeal the vehicle emission standards or long-standing U.S. finding that greenhouse gas emissions endanger human health.
That's
Tesla
not what I wrote.
I didn't say you wrote that.
Just kidding.
I'm just quoting Sawyer. Tesla said that the EPA proposal would give a pass to engine and vehicle manufacturers for all measurement, control, and reporting of GHG emission for any highway engine and vehicle. And what Joe did say, Tesla asked administration to put love first, kinda. But yeah, so I think this is like, like I said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to move forward. I mean, we've been seeing obviously this administration, they're going to be removing the federal tax credit for EVs and some of the other stuff that they've been pulling back on for this.
No, I think this is just hey, we care type of thing, and it's not going to make a difference. I mean, the Trump administration, Trump talked coal like for a long time, so like, yeah, he doesn't care about like
drill, baby, drill, as he would say.
Yeah, he doesn't care about that whole thing. So, but I think it just Tesla just being like, hey, we're still here, we still care, we still matter type of thing, and it just putting it out there just for the sake of putting it out there, but it's not going to make a difference. But just to let people know, like, hey, we're not all bad, not all bad.
I think we really have two different things going on here at the same time. On the one hand, the Trump administration recognizes that energy is an incredibly important part of us being able to maintain our competitiveness with China. Like, China's just going all out on energy, period. Everyone is pointing to how much they're invested in growth of solar and batteries, and that is true, and that's going to be a big portion of their growth, but they're also investing in new natural gas and coal and nuclear as well. Like, they're just throwing everything in the kitchen sink at energy growth. And so I feel like the Trump administration, to a certain extent, feels like they have to do the same. But I think Elon has a valid point that doing this, like, there are real costs that get put into the economy by not forcing these people who are producing energy in ways that like decrease health outcomes and those sorts of things. At the very least, like, even if you take the global warming concerns off of the table, just saying, hey, if you put 1 million people in a city and then you fill it full of gas engine smog, a lot of those people are going to actually have a whole lot of medical bills that they're going to have to pay as a result of breathing in that nasty air. Like, just that, like, those are legitimate real costs that, honestly, if you want this to be a free market solution, the people who are contributing to that cost need to be the ones who pay it. And so that's why Elon has always been in favor of, I think this is one of the things when he talks about how coal and gas and those sorts of things are subsidized. Like, there are legitimate subsidies that come from the federal government for those in different ways, or state and local governments, but then even just not forcing them to pay the costs that they impose on the broader society is a different form of a subsidy, because you're allowing them to externalize costs and internalize profits. So I think that is valid, but then how do you balance that against, yeah, but we just need as much energy as quickly as possible from whatever source that we can possibly get it. And then at the same time, oh yeah, the UAW and all of the legacy auto manufacturers still have as much of a voice in the Trump administration as they ever did under Biden. And so while we may not be getting a Mary led, we do see the footprint of their influence here as well.
Yeah, that's some really good color too. Joe, did
Jeez,
you want something?
Hans just spitting facts over here, man.
All right, and Joe as well. Joe Tagmeyer. Can you want to take this one, Joe?
Sure. I think the next quarter is going to be kind of crazy. So Joe Techmeyer is noticing here that the production of new vehicle inventory is off the charts at Giga Texas, with a full overflow lot on the east side, in addition to a full overflow on the west outbound lot. He says this is like the most he's seen in a great deal of time. So I, along with a Tesla AI girl, we were at a local Tesla, and they were out of cars. Like, it was pretty scarce. So even though Tesla's been cranking out these vehicles, I mean, you're looking at logistically like vehicles that aren't going to make it for this quarter. But John, you were saying this earlier, they don't really have to for them to be able to get that tax credit. So I think that you're going to see a lot more people like just in the next couple of quarters just getting their vehicles. And it's pretty good to see, but man, yeah, they did not make them in time. I'm going to interested to see the numbers, Brian, for the quarter.
Yes, I will be very interested to see them too. It's going to be strong. We talked about that at the top of the show. We should get back to it. But what we're seeing, Shanghai is doing very well. They're not quite at a record, but they're approaching it. They never have problems producing vehicles. Berlin has added shifts. Austin has added shifts. And when you say, well, yes, but sales are down in Germany. True, that is undeniable. But what's also true is that Berlin is now exporting to Canada and the US is not. We're adding shifts in the US without even shipping to Canada. So that's a promising sign. While I would, of course, always like to see numbers go up and to the right, that doesn't always happen. But this quarter is going to be a banger, and it's going to carry forward a little bit into next quarter because the IRA credit. The guidance we got updated from Tesla North America yesterday on X was that if it's a lease, you've got to take delivery this month. If it's a purchase, you have to have a binding contract signed by the 30th, which they've now changed the language in the contract so that it is binding. You are on the hook to buy it. You just haven't taken delivery yet. So yeah, this quarter is going to be pretty strong. Is my conclusion so far.
And they just released a new incentive program that I think you get $1,000 off of SX or Cybertruck purchase through the referral program as well. So you can add that on to any purchases that you have. And then I don't think there's anything specifically for the Model 3 or Model Y, which I'm pretty sure that they're not having any trouble moving metal in those two categories right now.
Exactly.
Certainly not in the US. In Canada, they did add a $5,000 incentive to the Model 3 because the Model 3 has a steep tariff on it. And I've had people ask me, why are they using the Model Y to make them more affordable? Why shouldn't they use the Model 3? And part of the answer is the Model Y comes from all four factories, which gives a lot of flexibility in where it can be sold. If they use the Model 3, they wouldn't really be able to sell it into Canada and a number of other markets. And in Europe, it would have a big tariff on it because it's coming from China. So this will allow more sales to more markets duty-free or with reduced tariffs at least.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that with Tesla, what they can do is we already know Fremont, they run 24 hours. The SNX line, I think, is only running probably like Monday through Friday and during certain shifts. Like they're not running those, but when they need to, like what you're seeing in Austin, they can just ramp the shifts up. And also, too, if other regions, let's say, aren't as busy, maybe Giga Berlin isn't as busy, that there's markets like you said, Canada, where they can just start shipping stuff to. But it's great to see all of these happening, and if you need um, if you're looking to buy a Tesla, make sure if you're looking specifically to buy, not lease, make sure you get that order in before the end of midnight your time on 9:30, because you want something that is contractually binding to show interest so that you can still let this deal carry over into Q4. If not, you're going to be missing out on some great deals. But of course, why would Tesla incentivize these things that are going to be selling like hotcakes? Because in my opinion, the best bang for your buck is the Model Y. Like it's such an amazing car, and it gives you that extra space. Like even if money wasn't an issue, I would still buy the Y over the 3 just because of the fact of like the extra space, the front-facing camera, and the folding seats. Just there's a bunch of reasons to do that. And another interesting thing too is that Tesla has not even released in the US the performance Model Y. They're probably going to wait till Q4 to do that, which because it doesn't make sense for them to be even throwing that in there when it's like most people are still going to be buying the long range and the other trims. So yeah, big quarter happening here. All right, so if you were looking to buy, maybe you're buy out in Texas or you're somewhere else, you're looking to fly, you want to get your Model Y or your Tesla from Giga Austin, feel free to, you're going to get potentially access to, or not you potentially, you will get access to the Robotaxi app for 24 hours. So just some cool incentives. I believe it was Joe. He posted something yesterday too, where at Giga Austin they actually had a whole like little like track for kids in the little Teslas to just drive around on. So they are creating a whole experience. So again, I know our club, along with Joe, in partnership with Joe, we're gonna probably hit like 90% of all of the Bay Area shops. We're gonna drop off donuts this Saturday, just to kind of keep that quarter end push, keeping them energized even on sugar, but just to keep it going because again this company has been through a lot. They're working insanely hard to just break some records, and get that going. One thing I know we could go into the beat, but we're kind of winding down here. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Simon. He runs xlightshows.io. If you have been out to any of these big Tesla events, whether in Europe, whether in the United States, he is now doing this stuff full time. He quit his job this last Friday and the week before, and is now doing this full time. So I've started supporting him on Patreon, but he does a lot of really cool stuff for the global community. And when I have an opportunity to allow and donate towards something that really does make a great experience for the community, I'm all in. So go follow him, Tesla Light Shows on X. Give him a follow. But
And
yeah,
Simon's a
well,
great guy. He's out there working like crazy. He is not making money off this. He is traveling the world, and that's half the fun. But any support we can give him is keeps us in our light shows that we need.
Yeah.
exactly. So if you are looking to buy a Tesla, make sure you use Hans's referral code or some of the other ones in the YouTube link. Um, whether it's Hans 71453 or some of the other ones in YouTube. Just consider us if you're thinking about it. But just a huge shout out to Brian, Hans, and Joe. Also Joe for creating the deck, just for their time and their host. So please patronize them, give their channels a follow on YouTube. Also too here on X, they're tagged in the thread as well. And hopefully you guys all have a great week. This next week's gonna be crazy as they close out the quarter and as they release results. So we will potentially have you covered. I believe they will be releasing results, I believe on the third, right? Or the second. It could be the day
I think the
before. I think
second.
it's
It's the
yeah, so it's
morning of the
probably
second. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I'm always up early to sit and hang out with my fellow nerds who love enjoying watching the numbers. And we all sit there and go, this doesn't matter. The quarterly numbers don't matter. How are you guys? We're having fun, right?
What do you have projected, Brian?
High fours. I am not seeing it going over 500, but I'm still looking at it.
Nice.
And the high, do you know what the previous high was?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay. So yeah, we'll see. Who knows? But have they broken 500? Do we know? Not yet. Okay,
Not
they
yet.
have not. So even in the high fours, they could potentially still break their records.
This could absolutely be a record quarter. Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
and it's Q3, so there's still the holiday season, holiday hype too. So
Q4 is historically a very strong season. We may see a pullback because of the lack of the 7,500, but that's only in the US. All the other markets don't have anything like that going on. And yeah, we could absolutely see some a modest dip in Q4 due to seasonality, but we'll find out.
Well, back in the day, before when the last time the tax credit went away, I don't think we really saw that much of a dip. I mean, it stayed pretty steady, right?
No, but Tesla was also ramping the Model 3, so the
Right.
prices kept coming down after the credit ended. People say, well, then they'll just lower the price now. No. That was the first ramp. They had the ability. They were ramping into lower cost. They don't have 7,500 in margin on a Model 3 or Y to give away at this point, and there are no longer 7,500 inefficiencies to peel out of it, or they would have over the last 3 years. So I'm not as hopeful on that front, but it's still the best car out there. And with everyone else kind of throwing in the towel, there's less competition domestically than I expected.
exactly. All right, everyone, look out for the news dropping next week. On the 2nd, they're going to be dropping the delivery numbers. And we will see, how the results come out, and we'll get you guys caught up next Friday. See you guys. Have a good week, everyone.